Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel and welcome to my weekly watch roundup. Episode, whatever episode number this may be, can't remember, without looking. I'm not going to look, it'll be in the title sequence. There you go, so let's get started. Yeah, so welcome back. This is episode, obviously what it just told you, episode number. A bit lazy of me, I know, but there you go. Got my little book, so I've got everything jotted down as to what I've watched, because it can't stay all up there. Now I've got to change the format a little bit, in that before I've just gone through the list, film, TV, so I'm going to do film, then I'm going to drop to TV. Make it a bit easier for you so you know where I'm at. Now before I begin, please consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And there you go. Now I'm in quite a good mood today because, you know, the biggest film for me this week, I know the Batman came out, and I did see it. The biggest film for me was a film that I watched called, where is it? I can't even remember the title. How good is that? It's called Bull Shark. Yes, a film called Bull Shark. Now, the reason this is the biggest film for me, not because it's a great film, it's not. It's a load of rubbish, right? So, let me get over. So I'll put, you know, I'll stick the old posters up next to me for what I've watched. So, not because it's a good film, it's a bland film, it's rubbish, got rubbish acting, it's cheap and all this sort of stuff. No. But the biggest thing about this film is that my review actually got a response from the film's writer. How fantastic is that? Okay, it was a sarcastic response, it had a personal dig at me, but nevertheless it was a response from the writer, and I was over the moon by this. The fact that this writer got butthurt by my review for this movie. Just fantastic. So I'm going to leave the link in the description below. You can go and check out that review for this movie if you so wish, if you haven't watched it already. And you can see the writer's response. Just superb. It just goes to justify what I'm doing. Brilliant stuff. I mean, he thinks that, you know, I'm hurt by his little silly comments. You know, I'm only doing this for a bit of fun, for Christ's sake. I'm not going to be making a living out of it or anything, am I? That's not my intent. Jesus. But anyway, so just fantastic. So next up, yeah, okay, we will talk about the Batman. Yes, I did see the Batman. And I got a free comic book from the cinema as well. Fantastic. Well, it ain't fantastic because the free comic book was actually just a small part of the storyline by Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb, The Long Halloween. It's essentially a pamphlet to try and make you go out and purchase that said graphic novel. So, yeah, you know. I've got the graphic novel anyway. I've read The Long Halloween. But anyway, so the Batman. Yeah, so I know a lot of people are raving about this film. And it's a well-made film. Don't get me wrong. It's a well-made film. The pacing is okay. I do feel the film is a tad too long. The ending does kind of feel tacked on to a degree. After the Riddler's being foiled, his plan being foiled, well, after he's caught, shall we say. But I feel that last half is there to set up a sort of no man's land style storyline for future films. Now, what did I think of this film? In short, it was okay, and the Nolan trilogy is better. Michael Keaton's two films are better than this movie. It's got issues, it's got flaws. I do go into them. I'll comment on them now. Basically, one of the major ones is that the opening of the film's fantastic. You know, you had rain. Gotham looked different. It looked very sort of the aesthetic they used in the Joker film. But not only that, you know, when the bat signal goes off, you see these sort of small time street level villains, just, you know, robbers and people like that, and they get scared by the shadows. Literally, they're scared because the Bat logo's appeared, and they're looking into the shadows, and they think they see stuff, but they don't. But it just frightens them, the fact that the Batman's out there. Fantastic. But then you've got the Batman later on, knocking on club doors, right, going to see the Penguin and beating people up in a club, helping out the police, much like he did in the 1966 TV series. He's in daylight at the end, helping people out. You've got this sort of stuff going on, which to me would be like, oh, you know, you're in the crowd, you're going, oh, there's the Batman. Oh, it's just a geezer in some silly costume, you know, as opposed to people fearing him because they believe him to be some sort of a supernatural being or this sort of a thing, and these sort of rumours about him. He's actually out there and about, where people can take photos and whatnot, and it just kind of contradicts that. So I found that very difficult. And we've not seen Batman really working alongside the police and in public since 1997's Batman and Robin, yes, and then the 66 TV series. There you go. Anyway, next film I watched was A Day to Die, a Bruce Willis movie. Again, not a very good movie at all, but I felt that the director had potential. I've reviewed all these. You can go and check them out. He had potential, but obviously another Bruce Willis film. And it was only 11 days before that I watched another Bruce Willis film. So my last week version of this would have been me talking about another Brucey bonus. It wasn't a bonus. He just sleepwalks through. Anyway. That was A Day to Die. Next up is a film called Against the Ice, which stars Jamie Lannister. The geezer from Game of Thrones, that actor. It's a true story about a Danish expedition to Greenland, and it's a story of survival. It's set like in about 1909, around that sort of era. So it's my kind of film, survival film on the ice, on the tundra. It's very similar to The Terror, the TV series, which was fantastic. And I enjoyed this film, even though what I was watching was very familiar. It felt like I had seen it before through The Terror and stuff like this. But it's worth a watch. I spoke to my brother about it. He didn't like it because he felt that because everyone spoke English in it as opposed to Danish, which I can see as criticism. It would have been much better if it was spoken in Danish and subtitled, but it wasn't. It is what it is. There we go. And then I watched another shark film called Beneath the Surface. Only it's not a shark film. The poster would have you believe that it is, but it's not. There is a shark attack in it, which is done in flashback, but it's more about a young girl who's coming to terms with the loss of family members through a shark attack. But not only that, there's this other drivel story about her sort of stepmother, so to speak, trying to get money out of the house, the inheritance, and it turns out that the stepmom is sleeping with the girl's boyfriend, and they're all doing a big plan to try and get their money and have them killed, and they were drugged on the boat, and that's why they fell in the water, blah 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 blah. So in short, there's an interesting story in there. 1/3 of the film has got an interesting story. The concept of a shark attack film taking place after the events and someone suffering with sort of a PTSD, survivor's guilt, this sort of a thing, and you're learning about the attack in flashback. It's quite an interesting concept, but then you're riddled with all this other stuff in the film that is just boring. So again, not a good film, not one I recommend you watch. Now I'm jumping into TV territory. Yes, so let's get through this stuff. So first up, I did finally finish Reacher. Now I really enjoyed this TV series. I thought it was very good. I like the guy who plays Reacher, but I still have issue with the character of Reacher and the fact that he knows everything. He's just like a fountain of knowledge, and he, if there's a problem or if there's something, he knows. He's just like, he's got the answer. Bam, bam, bam. It doesn't lead to a very compelling kind of a character, other than he's quite cool. But there you go. Then I watched Family Guy. New Family Guy. I ain't been on for about 4 weeks. Now this episode saw Lois going back to like a sort of school reunion. Only she didn't want to take Peter. She wants to take Quagmire. Because Quagmire's, he's slimmer, he's a pilot, he's sort of well read, this sort of thing, as opposed to Peter being this sort of, Peter's like. And she takes him instead, but then she starts getting jealous when he's hitting on other women, even though she doesn't want to do anything with him, but she would like to be hit on just to make her feel a bit of self-worth and this sort of thing. So she starts getting jealous with him for hitting on other women and being respectful to her, because he is being respectful to her as it's his best friend's wife. So yeah, it just led to some humour. Then we had Superman and Lois. yeah, another solid episode. If you like Superman and Lois, I know some people have dropped off because there ain't enough Superman in it. I don't know what they expect. I like Superman and Lois because it puts the character of Clark Kent at a point in his life where we haven't seen him before, where he's dealing with children, or he's got he's got a young family, this sort of a thing, and people don't like this melodrama, but you can't have Superman flying around all day, every day, just saving the world. You've got to have this stuff to prop the series up. And the fact that they're giving us something that we haven't seen before is fantastic. And putting Superman in this dynamic that we haven't seen him in before is a very interesting concept to me as a fan of the character. And then we had 2 Star Treks. Star Trek Discovery. Again, very boring series. This programme's just going from worse to worse at the moment. They need to jettison their writers. They need new writing staff on board. This series is, you've got this DMA, this anomaly on Earth's doorstep with a few hours before it eliminates Earth essentially, and the crew have got time to stop off on a planet to do a sort of, go down to this desolate planet. Okay, it's the planet that these aliens probably came from and this sort of thing. But they've got time to go down there and talk about feelings and all this sort of nonsense. Rubbish. On the other hand, we had Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 1. Now, this has taken everything in the first series of Star Trek Picard that I disliked about that show because it was bloody boring. Not knocking Patrick Stewart, he's a fantastic actor, but Season 1 was boring and rubbish, and it's not what people wanted. Now, what they've done is they've taken this crew or the cast of that first series, and they've actually put a lot of them into Starfleet, on a Starfleet vessel, in different areas of Starfleet, 7 of 9 being this sort of Han Solo-y type hero out there doing what she does, and it just makes more of a compelling series that we've now... They've set this, this first episode set aboard a starship, then obviously the Bald Queen's introduced, and then Q's introduced, and we're going to head into an era of those sort of Star Trek of old where you had the time travel episodes and all this sort of thing, and they were back in time and that sort of nonsense, which I'm saying nonsense, it's not nonsense, it's great. So I'm really looking forward to this series. The only worry I have is Patrick Stewart. He is so old now, he looks really old, and they've greenlit this for a series 3. Hopefully he makes it to a series 3, but he's like about 90 years old or something like this, and props to him for keep going. He looks great, but his voice sounds old, his movements are old, which is all very much a shame. But there you go, but a great start to series 2. Then we had Resident Alien. Now, no, not people watch Resident Alien, but it is well worth a watch. Season 1 was fantastic. This episode is very good, probably the strongest episode of this season thus far. And the reason for that is because it takes the character of Harry, the alien character, and puts him into the big city as opposed to a rural town. So whenever you do this kind of a story in a TV show where you take a character out of their normal surroundings, plop them into different surroundings, these episodes are usually garnered to be the best episodes, but people don't realise that the reason you're thinking it's the best episode, which it is psychology essentially. You've mixed things up. You've given me something new, a new dynamic within the show for a couple of episodes at least. But yeah, no, props to it. Good stuff. Then I watched The Endgame, episode 2, which I've reviewed, and again, Morena Baccarin. This episode's got layer upon layer, or this series has got layer upon layer to it. That's how it's beginning to be. The layers even have layers. It's a compelling show, and if you've got the opportunity to watch it, you might just like it. And last but not least is The Walking Dead. Yeah, latest episode of The Walking Dead. Not a particularly good episode. This one was about, what's his fame, mullet guy. I've even read the comics. I can't remember the guy's name, the character's name. Anyway, one with a mullet who talks funny, trying to track down his girlfriend, his so-called girlfriend in this new place, the Commonwealth, and yeah, so not a particularly great episode at all. But there you go. Anyway, so those were my watches for the week. Let me know what you've been watching. Yeah. Anyway, I'm getting going. This is AJ. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care all, and goodbye.